Thank you, Hi Lol, for another tag, always appreciated, and we've got a very messed up situation here. In a tweet with almost 4,000 likes, Kat says, "This is a perfect example of why the entire anti/pro ship thing is so dangerous. This person befriended a 12-year-old under the pretense of helping them leave pro shipping, whatever that means, and is now trying to get their followers to harass that 12-year-old for rejecting their influence." Now, let me give you some more context on this if you don't understand some of these terms. And to be quite frank, I'm not an expert on this topic either, so I may have some of this wrong, but to my understanding, pro shipping is what some people refer to, specifically what they would deem problematic ships. For example, a brother and sister dating, or two stepbrothers dating, something like that, a ship. That would be a pro ship to that group of people. So essentially what we have here, if you're not getting the point, is, and some more information for you, by the way, this person, Mina, who has since deleted their account after this information became public, is apparently a 25-year-old who goes by she/they. Well, she, as mentioned, was apparently trying to convince a 12-year-old child that their ships were problematic and that they are a problematic pro shipper that needs to change. Now, first of all, extremely bizarre and weird and inappropriate for a 25-year-old to be talking about this sort of thing with a 12-year-old. First of all, that's disgusting and disturbing. Now we could also talk about the part where this 25-year-old was sending their own friends and followers to harass the 12-year-old because the 12-year-old was smart enough to realize that the person they're talking to is a weirdo who very well may have been trying to even groom them. Mina saying things like,
"I'm so ashamed in her. We tried helping her leave the pro ship community, and she was trying. We were all helping build her up. Then she wrote this in her bio and made these posts. Disgusting, and blocked."
You're 25 harassing a 12-year-old. This is honestly so dang weird. Why are so many adults following a 12-year-old and allowing them in their friend group? And then because they like fiction that they don't, is now calling out said ex-friend 12-year-old? My brain hurts. Mina's response reads,
"What's weird is your friend loves child redacted and redacted manipulation, incest, and is only pretending to be Margot's friend to groom her because your friend loves map behavior and more of this stuff. You probably do too. You guys are sick, sick, sick."
Says the 25-year-old talking about these mature, explicit themes with a 12-year-old. The projection here is off the charts. And look, even if you think pro shippers are in the wrong and you think that these ships are actually problematic, I think we can all agree that a 25-year-old stranger talking to a 12-year-old about these sort of explicit themes is highly inappropriate, and fill in the blank. There's plenty of other words we could use to describe that. Also, not to sound repetitive, however, let's not forget that the 25-year-old then also got a group of their friends to try and harass the 12-year-old when the 12-year-old wanted nothing to do with her. Kat from the beginning, who archived all of this, would add, "This child was in a group chat full of adults talking with them about shipping, an explicitly sexual topic. And now that the child has established boundaries and tried to cut off contact, the adults are attempting to bully and isolate them in retaliation. The fact people are able to rationalize someone else befriending a 12-year-old and having prolonged contact with them while they discuss explicit topics under the pretense of saving them from bad influences is freaking horrific, and everyone who sees this should be concerned. Every time someone asks this person why they were friends with the 12-year-old in the first place, they deflect attention and try to attack the person's shipping preferences. Fictional characters don't matter. Real people do. Real children do. These deflections are concerning. I'm not accusing this person of anything in specific, but just looking at this situation should raise about a dozen red flags. Antis have created the exact kind of social environment that would allow a predator to identify, influence, and isolate targets without detection. In fact, they would be celebrated for it, as this person's friends seem to be doing, saying things like, "Those pro shippers are so bad and dangerous, come sit with me. I am a safe person you can talk about these things with. I will help you figure out what is okay to like." No. This is unacceptable. A 12-year-old shouldn't be on Twitter in the first place, but if you see one, I can't believe I have to say this, maybe don't invite them to a group chat full of adults and talk to them about what you think good and bad kinds of shippings are. In fact, don't talk to them at all. I don't normally get involved in I don't normally get involved in discoursey things like this because it's usually a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. But this particular situation reveals so much about how anti-communities function and how the entire pro/anti-ship debate could easily be exploited by predators. I mean, look at this. Someone expressing concern about cyberbullying a child who didn't want to talk to her and your friends about shipping is being treated as, quote, invading our wholesome territory to start drama. Oh no. No. A 25-year-old referring to the place where they talk about mature explicit themes to 12-year-olds as their wholesome territory. Yeah, I think I need some time off the internet after this one. This actually very well may be one of the most disgusting topics I've ever reported on. And disturbingly, it's actually very similar to two other segments I reported on, one from a year ago and one from 10 months ago. One titled Girl Gets Doxxed Over an Anime Joke, They're Trying to Ruin Her Life, and the other titled Adults Try to Justify Doxing a 13-year-old. Now, on the topic of those videos, I've actually got to issue a quick correction and apology, my bad. The other day, in a video I made responding to a smear piece about me on TikTok, I referenced the video Adults Tried to Justify Doxing a 13-year-old as the video where adults on TikTok tried to dox a 13-year-old. I actually reversed those videos by mistake. The TikTok doxing one was the one below that. Girl Gets Doxxed Over an Anime Joke. That one's about TikTok. The one above that was about Twitter and Discord. Although very similar topics, so I think you can understand why I mixed them up. Also, they were both from around a year ago, almost, give or take, so hopefully people understand. Ultimately, it was my mistake though. Now it's cleared up. And if this video has been interesting you so far, please consider liking and subscribing. However, I mention that specifically because if this video interests you, those videos I just mentioned, those two, may interest you as well. I will have them linked in the description. However, I would also like to briefly talk about them in this video because it's absolutely appropriate and relevant to what we've been talking about. So yeah, crazy stuff, man. In the Adults Try to Justify Doxing a 13-year-old, you basically had adults on Twitter and Discord saying that this minor consumes problematic media, and they were literally like bragging and trying to justify doxing her. Very disturbing stuff. And the 13-year-old actually had great responses to the adults. Like, the 13-year-old was kind of trolling them back and, like, not bowing down to them at all. I gotta say, the 13-year-old in that video has much more of a backbone than many adults that we see on social media, where they just instantly bow down to the mob and apologize even if they've done nothing wrong. And in the other segment, Girl Gets Doxxed Over an Anime Joke, They're Trying to Ruin Her Life, this girl on TikTok essentially was talking about Bungo Stray Dogs, excuse me. I'm not familiar with the anime, so I don't really understand the situation entirely. To my understanding, though, one character was assaulted in a sexual way, right? You get the point. And so this girl on TikTok said, "How did he let that happen? I would have fought back and kicked them," or something like that. And then you had literal adults saying that this was such a bigoted, like, intolerant remark and that she's like victim shaming, etc., etc. And so the adults find out that this is a 13-year-old. Not just that, they find out where she goes to school. If I recall, they even called her principal. I can only imagine how that went. I mean, you probably didn't answer the phone, probably went to voicemail or something. I digress. How did that conversation go, or that voicemail go? "Oh, hi. We found out that a problematic child goes to your school. They make offensive jokes about anime characters." We're adults from the internet, by the way. You can thank us later. Bro, anyone who hears that would think that the adults are the problematic one in that situation. And problematic is putting it lightly. Like, creep, disgusting, freak. Maybe these are more appropriate. So yeah, unfortunately, this is now the third segment that I've reported on where adults try to justify doing extremely creepy, disturbing things to children under the guise of, oh, we're just trying to help them. I would also just like to point out something odd here, prefaced with me once again saying that I don't like lolly stuff. That said, I would like to point out that this tweet from Kat compiling this serious, disturbing situation only got around 4,000 likes. Yet on Twitter, you frequently see some random Twitter user that liked some lolly anime characters getting called out to the tune of like over 100,000 likes. It's just odd to me. Again, I don't like the lolly stuff. However, I find it disturbing that so many people on Twitter care more about that than situations like this one, where a real child is getting preyed upon, and there's evidence of it too. I mean, come on now. In closing, we have multiple situations where adults have preyed on children with the excuse that they're just trying to help them, when in reality, they are really just trying to harm them. And from the analytics, apparently the majority of people on Twitter think that fictional characters matter far more than real children. Maybe there is a specific reason they want to spread that narrative so much. Disturbing stuff. Now, to end on a positive note, however, out of this segment and the other two similar ones I mentioned, twice, we have seen that the children are thankfully smarter than the adults, and they realized what was going on before they were preyed on any further, even leaving rather witty comments in response, and or even trolling the adults a bit too. In the outline situation, it didn't have as positive of an ending. However, at least the child didn't apologize to the people creeping on them or anything like that. They essentially just asked people to stop calling their principal. Crazy stuff overall, though. With that said, that's the end of this segment. Thanks for tuning in. Be safe, all of you. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next segment.